Good evening. Welcome to COVID Cast number 20. All right, so I hope you found that entertaining. Anyways, I'm Henry Hushke here from Traverse City, Michigan in the northwestern Lower Peninsula, coming at you today with today's update. So today, first we're going to start out with the virus, per usual. So today with the virus, we crossed the 1 million confirmed found case milestone, I suppose, landmark. So, bad news today, crossing that. Obviously, it was expected. It's pretty much a guarantee. 10 million is most likely a guarantee, too, at this point. But, obviously, we'll see. Anyways, today, some positives. Italy continues to remain below 5,000 new cases, still in this kind of 4,000 range. So hopefully we can see that bust down into the 3,000 range here. But it seems like they're definitely on the back half of their curve. So that's good. They're on the back nine. So that's some good news out of Italy there. The rest of the world, basically Europe is, some countries are at the peak. I'm pretty certain Spain is at its kind of peak right now, or its worst right now. Same, the UK is a little bit before its worst. Germany is probably right around its worst right now. So Europe is really probably in the next 2 weeks, I would guess. Hopefully we'll start to see their new cases coming out of Europe start to go on the decline. That would be very good to see from Europe as a whole. And the US clearly has skyrocketed into the position of the country with the most cases by far. As of recording right now, the US is sitting at 238,820 cases of coronavirus. So clearly the US is really just skyrocketed, and the US will most probably reach a million, or there are definitely probably a million people infected who are either incubating or just haven't been tested yet, who are symptomatic. So very, very bad situation here in the U.S. right now. And obviously, we've just heard these estimates for deaths, I believe from 260,000 to 100,000 is their estimates if we follow all the proper protocols right now. Which I hope partially is kind of hedging our bets that if we do follow these things, maybe we could keep it under 100,000 dead. But the situation is incredibly bad in the U.S. And that's assuming that we actually take all the measures. Again, if we don't, we could definitely see above that into the high 100,000s, or possibly flirting with that million mark. So that's why it's so important in the U.S. that we continue to social distance and we stay strong. This month is likely to be incredibly rough for the U.S. So yeah, we want to make sure that there's not a month worse than April, basically, is our goal right now. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, that's bad. Locally in Michigan, yesterday on April Fool's Day, April 1st, we saw our worst jump in cases, 1,800 new cases, which is pretty insane. Michigan basically is equivalent to an outbreak in Europe. Basically, they're pretty analogous right now. The early stages of one of the outbreaks in Europe. Michigan is now up to 10,779 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and that is with only, and this is what's so scary about Michigan's numbers, only 31,000 tests, although I believe that number is reflective of yesterday's, because it says the positive tests are only 8,000. Nonetheless, still fewer than 50,000 tests have been conducted in Michigan, so that's a very high percentage. Almost a third of these tests are coming back positive in Michigan. So that's a sign that we have a lot more cases in Michigan. And I'm pretty certain maybe they're finding a lot of the cases in Detroit right now, but I'm guessing the rest of the state is going to see a peak sometime later than the Detroit area, which will probably, hopefully, see a peak in cases in a week or 2 or 3. We're probably looking at more 3 or 4 weeks before we see our peak here. That's why it's so important that we distance up here in the rural areas right now. So, yeah, that's a lot of the news with the virus. Basically, things are still okay. We're maybe starting to see the logarithmic trend start to bend a little bit in the US and just globally. Although the developing world does present a ton of landmines, in my opinion. We're seeing now most African countries reporting some number of cases, if not over 100 cases. So really concerning there. And South America, a lot of the countries are reporting over 1,000 cases. So again, places with limited testing capacity and limited ability to social distance are just starting to see this. So that's probably where the next explosion would be. And if I had to guess, that would probably occur definitely in May. We'll start to see that accelerate to horrific levels, if I had to guess right now, unfortunately. So kind of bad news about the virus and good news. It's a mixed bag. But it's mainly not good. We got to keep up with what we're doing right now, because otherwise, this will be Spanish flu too. So yes. Okay, so the second thing I'd like to talk about today is the economy. So obviously the economy has been on quite a roller coaster in terms of like the stock market. And we saw numbers today which were kind of insane. 6.6 million people filed for unemployment insurance in last week, and the week before that it was 3.28 million people. So about 9.9 million people in the last 2 weeks have filed for unemployment insurance, which as a percentage of the workforce is a single digit integer. I'm not quite sure, but that's a ridiculous increase in the unemployment rate, and something that's just really, really bad for the economy. If we didn't have the stimulus bill right now, many Americans would be looking at not being able to make rent, not being able to buy food. It's a very brutal situation right now. So, what can we do? Well, there's a statistic that I found that's really telling of just how dire the situation is going to be economically coming out of this. There's going to be long-term effects. So, I found an article from a couple months ago, or actually a month ago, that was about small business. And currently, as of last year, there was a survey done, and they found that the average small business has enough cash to operate for 27 days with no revenue. A 27-day buffer. So the average small business in America, if it were shut down for over a month, would run out of money. Then they would have to start selling things to make payments. And certainly they would have to lay off their staff. So obviously huge problems for these businesses in places where we're going to have to be shut down for 2 and 3 months at least. So huge problems there. So fortunately, the stimulus bill did offer loans to these businesses, but the problem is that even once this goes away, if these businesses have a significant increase in debt, even if that debt is at an extremely low interest rate, they're going to be much more leveraged. They're going to have a higher debt to income ratio that they're going to want to pay down, which means they're going to have to be a little more thrifty, cut back. So it's just going to limit growth just in general of any small business out there. because they're going to have to pay down this debt and increase their income and be run as tight a ship as possible. Well, this has a larger effect in that they'll probably hire fewer staff, wages will be lower, and just as a whole, the economy will get tighter. So it's a big risk here. So it's kind of our duty to try at this time to try to support these small businesses because of the significant risk this has to the economy. And not just the economy of Wall Street, but more Main Street. Main Street is really the ones most exposed because large corporations have much more access to credit, and they have much more access to just multiple markets, much more versatile than just your average small business. So how can we help? Well, one way is to order things online. Ordering online is a great way to support businesses. For instance, here, my sister, who works for a publishing company, ordered books from Brilliant Books, a local bookstore here, despite the fact that she basically has access to basically any book she really wants for free at her office. Well, she isn't going to her office right now, but through a company, she still decided to order, I believe, I forget exactly how much, but I think like 10 books from the bookstore. So even though they're closed right now, that's one way to support them. Other ways, ordering online for things, just ordering anything online that you can. A lot of businesses still have some sort of operation online like that. And one important thing is that if we don't order online, likely they'll have to completely shut down because it'll cost too much to try to run any operation, and then they will have to lay off more of their staff or completely shut down. So that's something incredibly important. Another thing we can do is buy gift cards, right? Gift cards are a great way. Compared to just taking out a loan, a gift card's much better because there's no interest rate on a credit card, and it's not, the debt is in the product, and it's a product that they're already making money on anyways. And it's likely people won't even use their gift card completely, right? A lot of times people don't use their gift cards, so it's a really good thing for these businesses. Gift cards, it's incredibly lucrative and helpful to them during this time. So gift cards would be something I'd recommend buying. Of course, understandably, the problem in these sorts of things, and the reason why economic downturns are so easy to get going once they start, is that, of course, not many people want to be spending money at all because they want to save up and they want to prepare for the storm right now. So it's a difficult balance, but I would just say whatever you can would be good to help contribute. Also, some businesses have these great curbside pickup operations. One of my personal shout-outs today is the Cheese Lady here in Traverse City. They're doing something called Curdside Pickup, which, I love puns, so I'm a fan of Curdside Pickup, even though it's kind of a cheesy pun. I like it, so that's just one example of something that you can support. So, yeah. Really just important, something we're going to keep in mind here, and something I'll probably come back to talking to later. Okay, so that just leaves me with one final thing I'd like to talk about today, which is in the state of Michigan for the local area. Governor Whitmer today closed schools physically through the end of the school year. So that's right, I believe it was March 13th. A random day, the night before we learned school is going to be closed. That was our last day at school. How weird is that? What a year. I'd like to say I'm sorry if you're a senior. This is pretty sucky, but also memorable. The class of 2020 is definitely one of the most unique classes, so you got that at least. You got something, but you got a story. But it's definitely going to be a challenge. So basically, what this means and what Governor Whitmer's order was, is it basically left up what the districts are going to do to the districts. So TCAPS, the local school district here, sent out a note basically kicking the can down the road. I'm sure they were caught somewhat off guard by this. So basically they announced that they will have a plan no later than April 28th. So before the end of the month, they will have a plan for how things are going to work. I personally hope that what they do is set up, like Zoom classrooms, continue. We can talk to our teachers via Google Classroom. We have a few assignments, and my hope is that what we'll end up doing is just pass fail for these classes, or satisfactory, non-satisfactory for these classes. Just because I think it's kind of like, I don't know how grades are going to work, but it seems unfair to me to have mid semester just kind of stop, and then, no opportunity really to do anything. That's just my take, though. We'll see what they do. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have on the cast today. Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out something else for tomorrow, another piece of piano for tomorrow. And tomorrow is Fun Day Friday, don't forget. So we're going to talk about some lighthearted things and some fun things that you can do during this time. All right, so I'd like to thank everyone for listening to day 20 in 2020 of the COVID cast. I hope you have a thoughtful and thankful Thursday. Don't forget to keep social distancing.